Dream Theater is an American progressive metal rock band formed in 1985 under the name Majesty by John Petrucci, John Myung, and Mike Portnoy while they attended Berklee College of Music in Massachusetts. They subsequently dropped out of their studies to further concentrate on the band that would ultimately become Dream Theater. Though a number of lineup changes followed, the three original members remained together along with James LaBrie and Jordan Rudess until September 8, 2010 when Portnoy left the band. In October 2010, the band held auditions for a drummer to replace Portnoy. Mike Mangini was announced as the new permanent drummer on April 29, 2011. The band is well known for the technical proficiency of its instrumentalists, who have won many awards from music instruction magazines. Guitarist John Petrucci has been named as the third player on the G3 Tour 6 times, more than any invited players. In 2009 he was named the No. 2 Best Metal Guitarist by Joel McIver in his book The 100 Greatest Metal Guitarists. He was also named as one of the top 10 fastest shredders of all time by GuitarOne magazine. Jordan Rudess is considered to be one of the greatest keyboard players of all time by many publications like MusicRadar. Former drummer Mike Portnoy has won 26 awards from Modern Drummer magazine and is also the second youngest person to be inducted into the Rock Drummer Hall of Fame. His replacement Mike Mangini has also previously set 5 WFD records. John Myung was voted the greatest bassist of all time in a poll conducted by MusicRadar in August through September 2010. The band was inducted into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame in 2010. The band's highest-selling album is the gold-selling Images and Words, which reached No. 61 on the Billboard 200 chart. Both the 1994 release Awake and their 2002 release 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence also entered the charts at No. 32 and No. 46 respectively and received mostly positive reviews. Metropolis .2, Scenes from a Memory was ranked number 95 on the October 2006 issue of Guitar World magazine's list of the greatest 100 guitar albums of all time. It is ranked as the 15th greatest concept album by Classic Rock magazine and as the number 1 all-time progressive album by Rolling Stone. 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence also led to Dream Theater becoming the initial band reviewed in the music section of Entertainment Weekly during its opening week of release, despite the magazine generally preferring more mainstream music. In 2007, Systematic Chaos entered US Billboard 200 at No. 19. By 2011, Dream Theater has sold over 12 million records worldwide. The band's 11th studio album, A Dramatic Turn of Events, was released on September 13, 2011. It entered the US Billboard 200 at No. 8. 2 positions lower than their previous release Black Clouds and Silver Linings which entered the Billboard 200 chart at No. 6. The album is the band's first with Mike Mangini, since Mike Portnoy's departure. On November 30, 2011, the album's lead single, On the Backs of Angels, was nominated for a Grammy Award in the Best Hard Rock Metal Performance category, marking the band's first ever Grammy nomination. Dream Theater's self-titled 12th studio album was released on September 23, 2013 and sold around 34,000 copies in the first week and landed at No. 7 on the Billboard 200 chart, 1 position higher than A Dramatic Turn of Events. On April 9, 2013, Images and Words won Loudwire's fan-voted March Metal Madness for World's Best Metal Album beating albums by Dio, AC/DC, Judas Priest, Megadeth and Metallica. History, Early Years, Formation. Dream Theater was formed in Massachusetts in 1985 when guitarist John Petrucci, bassist John Myung, and drummer Mike Portnoy decided to form a band while attending the Berklee College of Music. The trio started by covering Russian Iron Maiden songs in the rehearsal rooms at Berklee. Myung, Petrucci, and Portnoy joined together on the name Majesty for their newly formed group. According to the Score So Far documentary, they were waiting in line for tickets to a Rush concert at the Berklee Performance Center while listening to the band on a boom box. Portnoy commented that the ending of the song Bastille Day sounded majestic. It was then decided that Majesty would be the band's name. The trio then set out to fill the remaining positions in the group. Petrucci asked his high school bandmate Kevin Moore to play the keyboard. After he accepted the position, another friend from home, Chris Collins, was recruited as lead vocalist after band members heard him sing a cover of Queen of the Reich by Queensrÿche. During this time, Portnoy, Petrucci, and Myung's hectic schedules forced them to abandon their studies to concentrate on their music, as they did not feel they could learn more in college. Moore also left his college, SUNY Fredonia, to concentrate on the band. The beginning months of 1986 were filled with various concert dates in and around the New York City area. During this time, the band recorded a collection of demos, titled the Majesty demos. The initial run of 1,000 sold out within 6 months, and dubbed copies of the cassette became popular within the progressive metal scene. The Majesty demos are still available in their original tape format today, despite being released officially on CD, through Mike Portnoy's It's Jam Records. In November 1986, after a few months of writing and performing together, Chris Collins was fired. After a year of trying to find a replacement, Charlie Dominici, who was far older and more experienced than anyone else in the band, successfully auditioned for the group. With the stability that Dominici's appointment brought to Majesty, they began to increase the number of shows played in the New York City area, gaining a considerable amount of exposure. Shortly after hiring Dominici, a Las Vegas group also named Majesty threatened legal action for intellectual property infringement related to the use of their name, so the band was forced to adopt a new moniker. Various possibilities were proposed and tested, among them Glasser, Megas, and M1, which were all rejected, though the band did go as Glasser for about a week, though fans reacted poorly to this decision. Eventually, Portnoy's father suggested the name Dream Theater, the name of a small theater he ran in Monterey, California, and the name stuck. When Dream and Day unite. With their new name and band stability, Dream Theater concentrated on writing more material while playing more concerts in New York and in neighboring states. This eventually attracted the attention of Mechanic Records, a division of MCA. Dream Theater signed their first record contract with Mechanic on June 23, 1988 and set out to record their debut album. The band recorded the album at Cajun Victory Studios in Gladwin, Pennsylvania. Recording the basic tracks took about 10 days, and the entire album was completed in about 3 weeks. When Dream and Day Unite was released in 1989 to far less fanfare than the band had anticipated. Mechanic ended up breaking the majority of the financial promises they had made to Dream Theater prior to signing their contract, so the band was restricted to playing around New York City. The promotional tour for the album consisted of just 5 concerts, all of which were relatively local. Their first show was at Sundance in Bayshore, New York, opening for the classic rock power trio Zebra. After the 4th show, Charlie Dominici was let go because the band was starting to feel the limitations of his voice based upon the vocal style they wanted. The band was looking for more of a Bruce Dickinson-Jeff Tate type of singer, and his stage presence was not what they wanted for a frontman. Shortly after, however, the band Marillion asked Dream Theater to open for them at a gig at the Ritz in New York, so Dominici was given the opportunity to perform one last time. It would be another 2 years before Dream Theater had a replacement vocalist. The Atlantic Years, Images and Words and the addition of James LaBrie. Following Dominici's departure, Dream Theater fought successfully to be released from their contract with Mechanic, and set about auditioning singers and writing material for their next album. In their search for a new singer, they auditioned over 200 people, among them former Fates Warning frontman John Arch. John ultimately decided that his personal commitments were more important. And, he opted not to join the band. In mid-1990, at a gig in New York, Dream Theater introduced Steve Stone as their new singer. They had successfully recorded demos with him, which can be seen on the demos, though he only performed one live show with them that ended up disastrous, and Stone was fired immediately. The band says he had been moving around the stage in a rather odd manner, seemingly doing a bad impression of Bruce Dickinson. Also, he had infamously shouted "Scream for me Long Beach" several times throughout the show, although they were actually performing in Bayshore. It was 5 months before Dream Theater played another show, this time all instrumental. Until 1991, the band remained focused in an attempt to hire another singer and writing additional music. It was during this period that they wrote the majority of what would become Images and Words. In January 1991, Kevin James LaBrie, of glam metal band Winter Rose, was flown from Canada to New York for an audition. LaBrie jammed on 3 songs with the band, and was immediately hired to fill the vocalist position. Once recruited, LaBrie decided to drop his first name to avoid confusion with the other Kevin in the band. For the next few months, the band returned to playing live shows, while working on vocal parts for the music written before acquiring LaBrie. Derek Shulman and Atco Records, a division of Elektra Records, signed Dream Theater to a 7-album contract based on a 3-song demo. The first album to be recorded under their new record contract was Images and Words. For promotion, the label released a CD single and video clip for the song Another Day, but neither made significant commercial impact. The song Pull Me Under, however, managed to garner a high level of radio airplay without any organized promotion from the band or their label. In response, ATCO produced a video clip for Pull Me Under, which saw heavy rotation on MTV. A third video clip was produced for Take the Time, but it was not nearly as successful as Pull Me Under. The success of Pull Me Under, combined with relentless touring throughout the US and Japan, caused Images and Words to achieve gold record certification in the States and platinum status in Japan. A tour of Europe followed in 1993, which included a show at London's famed Marquee Club. The show was recorded and released as Live at the Marquee, Dream Theater's first official live album. Additionally, a video compilation of their Japanese concerts was released as Images and Words, Live in Tokyo. Awake and Kevin Moore's departure, eager to work on fresh material, Dream Theater retreated to the studio in May 1994. Awake, Dream Theater's third studio album, was released on October 4, 1994 amidst a storm of fan controversy. Shortly before the album was mixed, Moore had announced to the rest of the band that he would be quitting Dream Theater to concentrate on his own musical interests, since he was no longer interested in touring or the style of music which Dream Theater performed. As a result, the band had to scramble to find a replacement keyboardist before a tour could be considered. Jens Johansson, who would go on to become a member of Stratovarius, was among the biggest names to audition, but the band members were eager to fill the position with keyboardist Jordan Rudess. Portnoy and Petrucci had come across Rudess in Keyboard magazine, where he was recognized as Best New Talent in the Readers' Poll. The two invited him to play a trial gig with the band at the Concrete Foundations Forum in Burbank, California. Although the show was a success, and Rudess was asked to fill the keyboardist position permanently, he opted to tour with the Dixie Dregs instead, since it granted him more personal latitude. Dream Theater hired fellow Berklee alumnus Derek Sherinian, who had previously toured and recorded with Alice Cooper and Kiss, to fill in for the Awake promotional tour. By the conclusion of the tour, the band decided to take Sherinian on as Moore's full-time replacement. A change of seasons, falling into infinity, once again finding themselves with a new member, Dream Theater did not immediately start working on new material. Fans around the world, united on the It's Jam mailing list, had begun to put pressure on the band to officially release the song A Change of Seasons. This had been written in 1989 and was intended to be a part of Images and Words, but at almost 17 minutes, it was deemed too long for studio placement. It had nevertheless been performed live by the band, who continued to revise it in the years leading up to 1995. The petition was successful, and the group entered Bear Tracks Studios in New York in May 1995 to rewrite and record the now 23-minute-long song with Sherinian contributing significantly to the final product. The band released A Change of Seasons as an EP along with a collection of cover songs from a live show recorded at Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club in London earlier that year. After a brief run of small concerts and a short break, the band released a special Christmas CD through their official fan club, consisting of rare live tracks recorded during the band's early years. They continued releasing a new CD each Christmas until 2005. Meanwhile, There were several changes at East West, and Dream Theater's main contact within the label was fired. As a result, the new team at the company were unaccustomed to the relationship Dream Theater had with former East West personnel, and they pressured them to write an album that was more accessible. In mid-1997, they entered the studio to write their next album. In addition to pressuring the band to adopt a more mainstream sound, East West recruited writer-producer Desmond Child to work with Petrucci on polishing the lyrics to his song You or Me. The whole band substantially reworked the song, and it appeared on the album as You Not Me with a chorus that bore little resemblance to the original. Child also had a noticeable impact on the album, with a shift towards less complex and more radio-friendly compositions. The band wrote almost 2 CDs worth of material, including a 20-minute-long follow-up to the Images and Words song Metropolisa Euro Part 1, The Miracle and the Sleeper. The label, however, did not allow the release of a double album because it felt that a 140-minute record would not be well received by the general public. James LaBrie also felt that the CD should be a single disc. The unused songs were later released and the Oxygen Records released the Falling Into Infinity demos. The material that made it onto the album proper was released as Falling Into Infinity, which received a mixed reception from fans who were more familiar with the band's earlier sound. While the album was moderately progressive sounding, tracks such as Hollow Years and You Not Me prompted some to believe it was the dawn of a new, mainstream-sounding Dream Theater. Overall, the album was both a critical and commercial disappointment. Although Portnoy did not speak out publicly at the time, he later revealed in the 2004 DVD commentary for 5 Years in a Lifetime, that he had been so discouraged during this period that he had considered disbanding Dream Theater altogether. During the European leg of the Touring Into Infinity World Tour, 2 shows were recorded for a live album entitled Once in a Lifetime, in France and the Netherlands. The album was released at around the same time as the video 5 Years in a Lifetime, which covered the years from Kevin Moore's departure to the Falling Into Infinity promotional tour. Edition of Jordan Rudess and Metropolis .2, Scenes from a Memory. In 1997, Magna Carta Records' Mike Varney invited Portnoy to assemble a progressive supergroup to work on an album, which would become the first in a long string of side projects for the members of Dream Theater. The lineup consisted of Portnoy on drums, Petrucci on guitar, Tony Levin on bass, and keyboardist Jordan Rudess, who had finished with the Dixie Dregs. The band assumed the name Liquid Tension Experiment, and would act as a medium through which Portnoy and Petrucci could once again court Rudess to join Dream Theater. In 1999, he accepted an offer to become the third full-time Dream Theater keyboardist, replacing Sherinian. With yet another new member, Dream Theater entered Bear Track Studio once again to write and record their next album. As a result of an ultimatum from Portnoy, the label gave the band complete creative control. The band began by revisiting the follow-up to Metropolisa Euro Part 1, which had been written during the Falling Into Infinity sessions but which had not been used on that album. They decided to expand the 20-minute song into a complete concept album, with a story revolving around themes such as reincarnation, murder and betrayal. To avoid stirring up the fan base, a tight veil of secrecy enveloped the writing and recording process. The only things fans were privy to prior to its release were a track list that had been leaked against the band's wishes, and a release date. In 1999, Metropolis .2, Scenes from a Memory was released to high critical acclaim, being lauded as the band's masterpiece, despite only reaching no A73 on the US album chart. The album was mixed by David Bottrill, but only a few of his mixes made it on the final album. The bulk was remixed by Kevin Shirley. The rest of the mixes can be heard in the band's official bootleg The Making of Scenes from a Memory. The subsequent world tour was by far their largest to date, and took over a year to complete. The concerts reflected the theatrical aspect of the album, with the first half of each show comprising the entire Scenes from a Memory album accompanied by a film showing dramatized portions of the story projected onto a video screen behind the stage. For the last date of the North American leg, at the Rosalind Ballroom in New York City, actors were hired to play characters in the story, and a gospel choir was enlisted to perform in some sections of the performance. The show was filmed and eventually released in early 2001 as the band's first DVD release, Metropolis 2000, Scenes from New York, which was certified gold in the US on November 8, 2002. Since several songs from the second half of the 4-hour show had to be cut from the DVD to save space, the band also released the full show on the live CD Live Scenes from New York. The original cover depicted one of Dream Theater's early logos modified to show an apple instead of the heart, and the New York skyline, including the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, in the flame above it. In an unfortunate coincidence, the album was released on the same date as the September 11 attacks. The album was quickly recalled by the band and was re-released with revised artwork later, although the few copies which were sold with the original artwork have since become rare collector's items. 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, putting the whole ordeal behind them, Dream Theater once again entered Bear Tracks Studios to record their 6th studio album. 4 years after they first petitioned East West to allow them to release a double album, they finally got their chance with 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. The first disc consisted of 5 tracks of 7:13 minutes in length, and the second disc was devoted entirely to the 42-minute title track, which remains to date the longest song Dream Theater has written. Many of the song's melodies and musical themes originated in an instrumental piece, written by Rudess, which would eventually become the song's overture. Those themes were then expanded by the rest of the band to form individual chapters in a complete story. 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence was very well received by critics and the press. It was the most publicized of Dream Theater's albums since Awake, debuting on the Billboard charts at No. 46 and the Billboard Internet charts at No. 1. The subsequent world tour included a select few special album cover gigs, in which they played Metallica's Master of Puppets and Iron Maiden's The Number of the Beast in their entirety. Train of Thought. In 2003, Dream Theater entered the studio to write and record another album. Unlike Scenes from a Memory, which had been written and recorded simultaneously in the studio, the band took a different approach by setting aside 3 weeks for writing prior to recording. In the middle of the recording sessions for the album, a special tour with 2 other progressive metal bands, Queensrÿche and Fates Warning, was undertaken in North America. Referred to in the band's promotional material as the Escape from the Studio American Tour, the tour featured Queensrÿche and Dream Theater as co-headlining acts with Fates Warning performing supporting act duties. As a finale for each concert there was an extended encore in which both Dream Theater and Queensrÿche performed together on stage simultaneously, often playing cover songs. At the completion of the tour, Dream Theater returned to the studio to finish the recording of their 7th album, Train of Thought. In contrast to the extended songs of their previous album, the band aimed to write a more song-oriented album, inspired in part by covering the Master of Puppets and Number of the Beast albums on their previous concert tour. Although the album was a critical success, its more straightforward metal sound alienated many of the band's existing fans, who had been attracted by the band's roots in progressive rock. During this time they also re-released their first 2 live videos for the first time on DVD, entitled Images and Words, Live in Tokyo/5 Years in a Lifetime on June 29, 2004, through Rhino Records. This release was certified platinum on March 22, 2006. Another world tour followed, during which Dream Theater supported Yes, a band which had been a major influence on their own musical style. A modest North American tour was completed by the 2 bands, after which Dream Theater continued to tour the world with their so-called An Evening with Dream Theater shows. The latter were captured in another live CD-DVD release, recorded at the famous Nippon Budokan Hall in Tokyo, Japan on their Train of Thought World Tour. Live at Budokan was released on October 5, 2004, and was certified platinum in the US on January 26, 2005. Octavarium. After their Train of Thought promotional tour, Dream Theater entered the Hit Factory Studios in NYC to record their 8th album. They would in fact become the final group to use the famous studio, which closed on April 1, 2005. Octavarium was released on June 7, 2005, and took the band's sound in yet another new direction. Its 8 songs included a continuation of Portnoy's 12-step saga, as well as the title track, a musically versatile 24-minute epic rivaling A Change of Seasons. Octavarium received mixed reviews from fans and has been the subject of spirited debate. Octavarium was the last album under their 7-album deal with Elektra Records, which had inherited the contract upon its absorption of East West Records. Dream Theater toured extensively throughout 2005 and 2006 to celebrate their 20th anniversary as a band, including a headlining spot on Gigantour alongside Megadeth and put together by frontman Dave Mustaine, also featuring Fear Factory, Nevermore and Symphony X. During a show on August 2, 2005 in Dallas, the band paid tribute to Pantera's late guitarist Dimebag Darrell by performing the song Cemetery Gates as an encore. In addition was the unexpected appearance of fellow musicians Russell Allen, Burton Seabell and Dave Mustaine, who joined the band on stage to perform parts of the song. Dream Theater later departed from Gigantour a few dates before it ended and continued on with their own series of concerts, several of which were recorded and released for the band's fan clubs. The 20th anniversary tour concluded with a show at Radio City Music Hall in New York City on April 1, 2006. Though the show had minimal promotion, it was sold out days after tickets were made available. This show, which was recorded for a CD-DVD called Score released on August 29, 2006 through Rhino Records, featured songs from the band's entire history, as well as second half accompanied by a full symphony orchestra. This release was the band's third live DVD release to be certified platinum in the US on October 11, 2006. The Roadrunner Years, Systematic Chaos and Greatest Hit. For the first time in their career, the band decided to take the summer off after their show at Radio City Music Hall. In September 2006, Dream Theater entered Avatar Studios to record their follow-up to Octavarium with legendary studio engineer Paul Northfield. Dream Theater's 9th studio album, Systematic Chaos, was released on June 5, 2007. The record marked their first with new label Roadrunner Records, which in 2010 would become a wholly owned subsidiary of the band's previous label Atlantic Records. Roadrunner implemented increased promotion for the album and Systematic Chaos duly reached number 19 on the Billboard 200. It also oversaw the release of a video for Constant Motion on July 14, the band's first music video since Hollow Years in 1997. The album was bookended by the two parts of In the Presence of Enemies, an epic duology written and conceived as a single piece but split into two halves for the purposes of the album. The other 6 tracks included the most recent part of Portnoy's continuing AA saga with the song Repentance. In the same year, the first version of Rich Wilson's Lifting Shadows, an authorized history of the band's first 20 years, was released. The 2007-2008 Chaos in Motion World Tour started off in Italy. Dream Theater played in the Gods of Metal concert on June 3, 2007, as well as various other European festivals including the Netherlands' Fields of Rock Festival, UK's Download Festival, the French festival Hellfest Summer Open Air alongside Megadeth, Korn, Mastodon and Slayer. The North American leg of the tour began on July 24 in San Diego, California and wrapped up on August 26 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He played with opening acts Redemption and Into Eternity. The Chaos in Motion tour continued for the rest of the year and into 2008, playing shows in Asia, South America and, for the first time, Australia. On April 1, 2008, a 2-disc compilation album entitled Greatest Hit was released by the band. The title jokingly references the song Pull Me Under, the band's only significant radio hit. It also includes 3 song remixes from their second album, Images and Words, 5 edited versions of previously released songs, and a track from a single B-side. Unlike most greatest hits compilations, Dream Theater was actively involved with the album, coming up with the track listing that they felt best represented their musical careers. After the release of Greatest Hit, drummer Mike Portnoy organized a new tour called Progressive Nation 2008. Unlike previous Dream Theater tours, performances were held in cities that they had not visited before in the past or cities they had not played in for several years. This tour also marked the first time, since the release of Images and Words, where the group performed in small venues and performance halls. In September 2008, the band released a DVD set called Chaos in Motion 2007 Euro 2008, featuring songs recorded at several shows during the Chaos in Motion tour. Black Clouds and Silver Linings. On October 7, 2008, Dream Theater returned to Avatar Studios to begin work on their 10th album, resuming their relationship with Paul Northfield to engineer and mix the record. The album, entitled Black Clouds and Silver Linings, was released on June 23, 2009. In addition to the standard CD, the album was made available on vinyl LP, as well as a 3-disc special edition CD that includes the full album, a CD of instrumental mixes of the album and a CD of 6 cover songs from artists such as Queen and Rainbow. On July 1, 2009, the album debuted at No. 6 on Billboard's Top 200 album chart, with first-week sales totaling 40,285, making their highest entry on the chart. The album featured The Shattered Fortress, the last in Mike Portnoy's a series of songs about his 12 steps recovery from alcoholism, as well as the song The Best of Times, described by Portnoy as a real heavy personal subject about my dad who passed away during the making of the album. He was battling cancer throughout its making. The band also embarked on a second Progressive Nation tour, including the tour's first performances in Europe. Opeth, Unexpect and Big Elf supported Dream Theater in Europe, while Zappa Plays Zappa, Pain of Salvation, and Beardfish were slated to perform on the North American leg. However, Pain of Salvation and Beardfish were unable to tour with Dream Theater and Zappa Plays Zappa because of financial troubles within their respective record labels. The two new bands that filled the vacated slots for the Progressive Nation 2009 tour in North America were Big Elf and Scale the Summit, with Big Elf performing on both European and North American legs. After the Progressive Nation tour, Dream Theater re-entered the studio to write and record a brand new instrumental track for inclusion on the God of War 3 soundtrack EP God of War, Blood and Metal. The track, entitled Raw Dog War Reversed, marked the first time that the band has written and recorded an exclusive track for an outside project. Raw Dog includes the first ever commercially recorded Harpedy track, performed by Jordan Rudess, as well as Dream Theater's final recorded performance with Mike Portnoy on drums. In December 2009, during their Black Clouds and Silver Linings tour whilst visiting Australia, Dream Theater appeared with one support act, Pain of Salvation. In March 2010, they toured South America with Big Elf. Afterwards, during the summer of 2010, Dream Theater supported Iron Maiden on the US and Canadian legs of their summer tour, which were the last shows DT played during 2010. Mike Portnoy's departure. On September 8, 2010, Mike Portnoy announced that he would be leaving Dream Theater, citing better relationships in other projects, burnout, and his desire for a break as reasons. Elaborating on the situation for MusicRadar, John Petrucci revealed that originally, Portnoy did not want to leave the band. He only wanted to take a 5-year break. He eventually dropped this number to around 1 year. Only after the rest of the band rejected his proposal did Portnoy decide to quit. After Portnoy left Dream Theater, relationships between him and his former bandmates became strained. In February 2011, Portnoy complained that no one from the band was returning his calls and emails. However, later Portnoy commented that both Petrucci and Rudess were the only members that stayed in touch with him. Tensions became especially high when Portnoy called James LaBrie disrespectful for comments LaBrie made during an interview, stating that Dream Theater were not sad at all that Portnoy was no longer a band member. As of July 12, 2011, LaBrie has not remained in touch with Portnoy. At one point, false reports surfaced that Portnoy had sued Dream Theater. Portnoy has since stated that he would rejoin the band in a heartbeat, stating, "They are the ones that have closed the door on it. Euro unregistered trademark, they only needed a break, and Euro unregistered trademark, they had that break. So Euro unregistered trademark, I'm ready, willing and able. But I honestly don't Euro unregistered trademark think they ever will. Their Euro unregistered trademark, they closed their door on it, and I think their Euro unregistered trademark too headstrong in having to prove themselves without me. so I wouldn't a unregistered trademark count on it. But my door is always open. A little more than a month after Portnoy's departure, Dream Theater began auditioning for a new drummer in New York City. The drummers invited to audition were Mike Mangini, Derek Roddy, Thomas Lang, Virgil Donati, Marco Minnemann, Achilles Priester, and Peter Wildoer. The candidates were notified whether they had been chosen on November 5. However, the results of the audition were not made public until April 2011 via a three-part YouTube documentary series called The Spirit Carries On. In the last episode of the series, it was revealed that Mangini was the drummer selected. Petrucci later explained that Portnoy approached them to rejoin after they had selected Mangini. Mangini by this time had left his job as a professor at Berklee and committed to Dream Theater full-time, so Portnoy's offer was rebuffed. A dramatic turn of events, Dream Theater entered Cove City Sound Studios to begin working on a new album on January 3, 2011. Writing was completed on March 2 and done without Mangini. On April 14, LaBrie began tracking vocals and by June 28, the album's mixing and mastering by Andy Wallace were finished. Released worldwide on September 12 and in the United States on September 13, a dramatic turn of events debuted at number 1 in some countries and attained the 8th position on the Billboard 200, the band's second ever top 10 debut position on that chart after Black Clouds and Silver Linings. Although the album received mixed reviews, it won numerous awards from music publications and its lead single, On the Backs of Angels, was nominated for Best Hard Rock Metal Performance at the 2012 Grammy Awards, representing the band's first ever Grammy nomination. Dream Theater kicked off their tour in support of a dramatic turn of events on July 4, 2011 in Rome, Italy. The second leg of the tour took place in North America, where the band headlined with Trivium. After a short break to conclude 2011, the band returned to Europe with Periphery, to Asia with Andy McKee, to North America with Crimson Project and then to South America for the final leg of the tour. On August 19 and 20, 2 shows were recorded at Luna Park in Buenos Aires, Argentina for a live Blu-ray release by Over the Edge Productions. After a 6-month delay, Live at Luna Park was released on November 5, 2013, by Eagle Rock Entertainment. The tour concluded on September 1, 2012 in Brasilia, Brazil. On December 25, 2013, at 6 Eastern Standard Time, as a holiday gift to the fans, Dream Theater released a free electronic 2-CD set of live tracks that were not recorded for Live at Luna Park from their 2011 to 2012 tour in FLAC format via BitTorrent. The release date and time are an allusion to their 1994 song 600, the intro of which contains a repeated sample of the line 6 o'clock on a Christmas morning as spoken by Helena Carroll in The Dead. Dream Theater's July 19, 2012 cover performance of King Crimson's 21st Century Schizoid Man with Crimson Project is notably omitted from this release due to copyright concerns. Dream Theater and Future, writing for Dream Theater's 12th studio album commenced on the A Dramatic Turn of Events tour. During soundchecks, the band would jam and record their ideas, and John Petrucci would bring in material he wrote independently. Following the conclusion of the tour, the band took a break but continued writing. They reconvened in early 2013 to enter the studio. In July 2012, Metropolis .2, Scenes from a Memory was listed as the #1 all-time progressive album by a Rolling Stone Readers poll, beating 2112 by Rush and Close to the Edge by Yes. In December 2012, Dream Theater re-signed with Roadrunner Records. The band soon began recording a new album as part of the new agreement. The band commented, "OE Roadrunner's dedication and commitment to Dream Theater has been evident to all of us from the very beginning, and is consistent in all departments and on all levels, right on through to the top. Roadrunner is a record label that is not only great at what they do but who truly understand what Dream Theater is all about, as well as the amazing people who support us all around the world whom we proudly call our fans. They are a record company we relate to as an organization firmly rooted in its ideals and mission, while always pushing the envelope in an effort to keep things moving ever forward." GuitarOne registered trademark. They reached many career-defining milestones while at Roadrunner and are all incredibly pumped in anticipation of our continued future together. Dream Theater's self-titled 12th album was released on September 23, 2013. The album sold more than 34,000 copies in its first week and landed on the Billboard 200 chart at number 7, the band's third consecutive top 10 album. In addition, the album cracked the top 10 in 24 countries including Japan, Germany, Argentina, Holland, Finland, Italy, Switzerland, Canada, Denmark, Norway, Austria, Australia and United Kingdom. Dream Theater's sixth live album, Live at Luna Park, was released on November 5, 2013. On January 6, 2014, John Petrucci said that Dream Theater are already planting seeds for album number 13. He commented, "There are some song ideas and little things like that, nothing really official, but the seeds just start to get planted. One of the great things about this career is that you have the opportunity every time to go in and start again with a blank slate and think, what can we do differently? How can we make this better? Where can we go from here?" Every album has a story, and to constantly have a fresh opportunity to do it is really satisfying. On March 25, 2014, the band recorded their Boston concert at the Boston Opera House for a live album release. They were joined by the Berklee World Strings and the Berklee Concert Choir, directed by Aaron Babui, for the second half of the set. On May 16, 2014, Dream Theater announced the studio albums 1992–2011, a box set spanning all albums from Images and Words to A Dramatic Turn of Events. The set was released on July 8, 2014. Live performances. Throughout their career, Dream Theater's live shows have gradually become bigger, longer, and more diverse. The most obvious example of this is their rotational setlist policy. Factors such as set lists from previous cities are taken into account to ensure that people who see Dream Theater multiple times within the same area will not see too many songs repeated, and even the set list from the last time the band was in a particular city is taken into account for the benefit of fans who see the band on successive tours. Some of Dream Theater's more notable touring partners include Porcupine Tree, Symphony X, Between the Buried and Me, Deep Purple, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Iron Maiden, The Dixie Dregs, Joe Satriani, Kings 10, Marillion, Megadeth, Trivium, In Flames, Pain of Salvation, Opeth, Queensrÿche, Riverside, Spock's Beard, Fear Factory, Enchant, 3, Yes and Zappa Plays Zappa. In 2005, Dream Theater toured North America with the Gigantour Festival, co-headlining with Megadeth, and have played with Megadeth and Iron Maiden physically on stage. The band's full world tours, since 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, have predominantly been so-called evening with tours, in which the band performs for at least 3 hours with an intermission and no opening act. The show that was recorded for Live Scenes from New York was nearly 4 hours in length, and resulted in Portnoy almost being hospitalized after acquiring severe food poisoning from the food he ate before the show. There is also a significant amount of humor, casualness, and improvisation attached to a Dream Theater concert. In the midst of a change of seasons, it is quite common for themes such as those for Major League Baseball and The Simpsons to be quoted, and Rudess routinely modifies his solo section in the song and others, often playing the ragtime section of When the Water Breaks from Liquid Tension Experiment 2. Several songs included on Once in a Lifetime include snippets of others' pieces, such as Lynyrd Skynyrd's Free Bird, and Rimsky-Korsakov's Flight of the Bumblebee. Other quotations include Mary Had a Little Lamb during Endless Sacrifice on the Gigantour, a Calliope-inspired break between verses of Under a Glass Moon, a quote of Don't Cry for Me, Argentina's main melody played by Petrucci while performing the intro solo of Through Her Eyes in Buenos Aires, the Turkish March at a concert in Istanbul, and the opening riff of Rash's A Passage to Bangkok at a show in Bangkok, Thailand. On the 20th anniversary world tour, Rudess has even thrown in a short Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star theme in a break during Endless Sacrifice, and during a concert in Israel he started a spontaneous Hava Nagila later accompanied by the rest of the band. Occasionally, a member of the audience is picked at random to perform on stage, an example of which can be seen during Portnoy's drum solo on the Live at Bud Oken DVD. There have also been many impromptu renditions of Happy Birthday, when a member of the band or crew has a birthday corresponding to a tour date, which normally results in a birthday cake being thrown at the subject. Perhaps the best example of Dream Theater's unpredictable concert structure came during Derek Sherinian's time with the band. At selected shows the band members all swapped instruments and performed an encore as the fictitious band dubbed Nightmare Cinema. They usually performed a cover of Deep Purple's Perfect Strangers, and, on one occasion, Ozzy Osbourne's Suicide Solution. At some shows, Sherinian, Petrucci and Portnoy would take the stage together under the name Nicky Lemons and the Migraine Brothers. Sherinian, wearing a feather boa and novelty sunglasses, would perform a pop-punk song entitled I Don't Like You with Petrucci and Portnoy backing. In Chaos in Motion Tour, in several concerts before Trial of Tears, Portnoy and Petrucci would change positions. In the Score and Chaos in Motion DVDs, an animation has accompanied certain parts of the songs, showing the band playing along to the music as cartoon characters. On the Score DVD, during the song Octavarium, the band is seen performing in an octagonal-shaped maze. As the animation continues, Jordan Rudess spontaneously turns into Santa Claus and John Petrucci catches fire. In the Dark Eternal Night from the Chaos in Motion DVD, the band battles against a monster by shooting fireballs from guitars, throwing drumsticks, and screaming. Notable shows and concert accomplishments: Dream Theater's largest audience as a headlining act was 20,000 in Santiago, Chile on December 6, 2005. This was during their first tour of South American countries other than Brazil. The show was released on DVD through Portnoy's It's Jam Records. In 2007, after their show in Salt Lake City on July 30, Governor John Huntsman, Jr. signed a proclamation officially marking July 30, 2007 as Dream Theater Day in the state of Utah. In 2008 Dream Theater started the Progressive Nation 08 Tour, along with Opeth, Between the Buried and Me, and 3. The tour is the brainchild of Mike Portnoy, who stated, "I've been wanting to assemble a package tour like this for many years now. With all of the festivals and package tours that go through America, I've been talking with our manager and agent for over 10 years now about doing something that focuses on the more progressive, musician-oriented side of hard rock and metal. I decided it was time to stop talking the talk, lace up and finally walk the walk." On February 13, 2009, Dream Theater announced the official lineup for their Progressive Nation 2009 tour. The tour was originally set to feature bands including Swedish bands Beardfish and Pain of Salvation, as well as Zappa Plays Zappa. On June 22, 2009, Mike Portnoy announced that Pain of Salvation and Beardfish would not be touring the North American leg of the Progressive Nation 2009 tour because of record label complications. In the same announcement, Portnoy stated that the bands Scale the Summit and Big Elf would replace Pain of Salvation and Beardfish on the tour. This lineup change has put Big Elf on both the North American and European legs of the Progressive Nation 2009 tour. The tour's North American leg ran throughout July and August 2009. On March 26, 2009 it was announced that Dream Theater would take the Progressive Nation tour to Europe for the first time alongside Opeth, Big Elf and Unexpect. The tour ran throughout September and October 2009. In June-July 2010 Dream Theater were the opening band for Iron Maiden during the first leg of their Final Frontier tour, which included Madison Square Garden as one of the many venues. On December 7, 2010, Dream Theater announced on their website that they would be headlining the High Voltage Festival alongside Judas Priest in 2011. In July 2011 they started another tour to promote a dramatic turn of events. In January 2014, they started the Along for the Ride tour to promote their self-titled album. Tours: Majesty shows, early Dream Theater shows, When Dream and Tour Unite, Pre-Images and Words shows, Images and Tour, Music in Progress tour, Pre-Awake shows, Waking Up the World tour, Home for the Holidays, The Fix for '96, An Evening of New Music, Touring into Infinity, Deep Purple Dream Theater tour, An Intimate Evening with Dream Theater, Pre-Scenes from a Memory, Scenes from a Memory tour, Metropolis 2000 Tour, World Turbulence, Escape from the Studio, Train of Thought Tour, Octavarium Tour, Gig on Tour 2005, Chaos in Motion Tour, Progressive Nation 2008, Black Clouds and Silver Linings Tour, Progressive Nation 2009, a dramatic tour of events, Along for the Ride, live guests. Along their career, the band has shared the stage live with guests such as Doug Pinnick, Teresa Thomason, Dweezil Zappa, Steve V, Eugene Friesen, Jay Beckenstein, Michael Ockerfeldt, Dave Mustaine, Joe Satriani, Russell Allen, Burton C. Bell, Adrian Belew, Tony Levin, Pat Mastelotto, Bruce Dickinson, Mike Patton, Ray Alder, Steve Hogarth, Steve Rothery, Steve Howe, Barney Greenway, and Queen's Rache, among others. Cover songs. Dream Theater have covered other artists' work throughout their career. They have performed cover songs live and in studio, with many of those live performances being recorded for official release. A Change of Seasons features Elton John, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Kansas, Queen, Journey, Dixie Dregs, and Genesis live covers. Through its Jam Records, the band have also released full album live cover performances of Metallica's Master of Puppets, Iron Maiden's The Number of the Beast, Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon, and Deep Purple's Made in Japan. The special edition of Black Clouds and Silver Linings includes a bonus disc with Rainbow, Queen, Dixie Dregs, Zebra, King Crimson, and Iron Maiden covers. Other notable artists covered by Dream Theater include Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, Pantera, Rush, The Who, and Yes. Logo and imagery. Despite the bands being forced to change their name, Dream Theater adopted a custom logo and wordmark which has appeared on the vast majority of their promotional material and on the front cover of every Dream Theater studio album. The Majesty symbol is derived from Mary, Queen of Scots mark, which was reworked by Charlie Dominici for use on the album artwork for When Dream and Day Unite. In September 2010, a fan of Dream Theater discovered that all of the letters of Dominici fit together perfectly into the Majesty symbol. When Charlie discovered this, he laughed and mentioned that it only took them 25 years to figure out the Dominici code. This has earlier also been discovered as shown on the comment section of DTFAQ and in the Norway podcast episode 2 from 2008, with Charlie Dominici. Musical style. Dream Theater is well noted for being one of the early progenitors of the progressive metal genre. The original members, John Petrucci and John Myung, have strong influences from progressive rock bands such as Rush, Yes, and Pink Floyd, heavy metal bands such as Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, various speed metal bands, and even the glam metal of the day. This synthesis created a unique metal that was not traditional of the day. It had distorted guitars and fast riffing, but the music focused more on technical proficiency and precise execution than on heavy metal riffs. The band's music has focused on three main elements: metal, melody, and progressive roots. Mike Portnoy has also stated that the band's slower songs are in appreciation of artists such as Peter Gabriel, U2, and Journey. Dream Theater's music also borrows elements from the 1970s and 80s art rock sound of musicians such as Kate Bush, Peter Gabriel, Electric Light Orchestra, The Moody Blues, and Procol Harum. Dream Theater's more recent albums such as A Dramatic Turn of Events, and Dream Theater lean heavily towards hard rock, while still maintaining their trademark progressive rock and metal sound, whereas their 2003 album Train of Thought showcased a darker, heavier, sometimes more straightforward metal sound, and much of their progressive rock sound was absent, replaced by metal elements such as riffing and shredding. This decision was inspired by the positive feedback received from their previous heavier songs on stage. 1999's Metropolis .2, Scenes from a Memory was praised for its display of old-fashioned progressive rock, and was influenced by classic conceptual rock records such as the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Pink Floyd's The Wall and the Final Cut, The Who's Tommy, and Genesis's The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. As well as the mentioned genres, Dream Theater's music often contains elements of styles such as symphonic rock, symphonic metal, arena rock, soft rock, and classical music. Band members, timeline. Bootleg culture. Dream Theater have released a series of official bootlegs, demos and other rarities through its Jam Records, headed by Portnoy. Demo series, the Majesty Demos 1985 Euro 1986, When Dream and Day Unite Demos 1987 Euro 1989, Images and Words Demos 1989 Euro 1991, Awake Demos 1994, Falling into Infinity Demos 1996 to 1997, Train of Thought Instrumental Demos 2003, Studio Series, The Making of Falling into Infinity, The Making of Scenes from a Memory, Live Series, New York City Euro 393, Tokyo, Japan Euro 1095, Old Bridge, New Jersey. Euro 1296, Los Angeles, California Euro 598, Bucharest, Romania Euro 702, When Dream and Day Reunite Euro 504, Santiago, Chile, 1205, Happy Holidays 2013-1213, Cover Series, Master of Puppets, The Number of the Beast, Made in Japan, Uncovered 2003 Euro 2005 The Dark Side of the Moon, Discography. Studio albums, When Dream and Day Unite, Images and Words, Awake, Falling into Infinity Metropolis Point 2, Scenes from a Memory, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, Train of Thought, Octavarium, Systematic Chaos, Black Clouds and Silver Linings, A Dramatic Turn of Events, Dream Theater, Certifications, RIAA Gold and Platinum Certifications, Images and Words Euro February 2, 1995. Metropolis 2000, Live Scenes from New York Euro November 8, 2002, Live at Budokan Euro January 26, 2005, Live in Tokyo /5 years in a Live Time Video Longform Euro. March 22, 2006, Score Euro October 11, 2006, Other Platinum and Gold Certifications, Awake, Awards, Keyboard Magazine. Jordan Rudess was awarded the following Keyboard Magazine Readers' Poll Award, Best New Talent, BURRN. Magazine, Jordan Rudess was awarded, Best Keyboards Player of the Year, Guitar World. The album Metropolis Point 2, Scenes from a Memory was ranked No. 95 on the magazine's list of the 100 greatest guitar albums of all time. Total Guitar Paul Gillard, John Petrucci won Guitarist of the Year Award, Ultimate Guitar Archive. In 2009, Dream Theater were placed on the top 10 in Ultimate Guitars The Greatest Metal Bands of the Decade. Classic Rock Magazine, Dream Theater won the Spirit of Prog Award at the Classic Rock Roll of Honor 2009 in London. They were also nominated for the Album of the Year Award for their album, Black Clouds and Silver Linings in 2009, but lost to AC/DC's Black Ice. Rolling Stone, in July 25, 2011, Dream Theater were placed on the list The Best Prog Rock Bands of All Time, chosen by the Rolling Stone magazine's Readers' Poll. MusicRadar, the MusicRadar Readers' Poll placed them amongst the 30 greatest live acts in the world today. They peaked No. 5 on the list, placed over artists like Metallica, Muse, U2 and Coldplay. John Myung, from August through September 2010, was voted the greatest bassist of all time. In the same time frame, Mike Portnoy was voted the second best drummer ever, losing out to Joey Jordison. In December 2010, James LaBrie was voted the 15th best frontman of all time. Jordan Rudess was voted the best keyboardist of all time in a poll conducted from June to July this year, with John Petrucci coming second in a Shred Guitarist poll conducted in May this year. Metal Edge, Derek Sherinian was voted Best Keyboardist in Metal Edge magazine's 1998 Reader's Choice Awards. Other recognitions, at Dream Theater's Salt Lake City show, Governor John Huntsman, Jr. signed a proclamation making July 30, 2007, Dream Theater Day. Dream Theater played twice on Xbox 360's Game with Fame event. He played Halo 3 in December 2007 and Call of Duty: World at War in June 2009. On November 2010, Dream Theater was inducted into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame. References. Further reading, Bredius, Mark. Dream Theater, the official site. Dixon, Brad A.L. Official Dream Theater FAQ. Hale, Mark. 1731 Majesty. Headbangers. Ann Arbor, Michigan, Popular Culture, Inc. ISBN A1-56075-029-4. Hansen, Scott James LaBrie, As This Man Thinks. Theatre of Dreams 27/28, pp. 26 €30. Hansen, Scott and Portnoy, Mike. Dream Theatre Tourography. King, Brian Jam Productions. Interview with John Petrucci and Mike Portnoy. Theatre of Dreams 29, pp. 14 €20. Wilson, Rich. Lifting Shadows. United Kingdom, Essential Works. ISBN A9781906615024. External links, official website, 2011 interview with James LaBrie on Prog Sphere.